Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of HPU Sports Talk. My name is Wendell Epps, and today I am joined by two brand new analysts we've got on HPU Sports Talk, Harris Eisenberg and Ben Membrino. Let's introduce you folks first. Harris, why don't you tell the people who you are, what you do here? I know you do a lot here at High Point.
Yeah, I'm Harris Eisenberg. I'm a senior. Like Wendell, broadcast a lot of games myself during basketball season, but take the main reins for baseball. And, baseball team's doing well so far. Sports media major, obviously. And, we've made some strides and happy to be here finally for the first time on Sports Talk. A long time waiting.
Yeah. And I'm Ben, I'm another sport media major, obviously, and a fellow senior. I'm not the announcer here. I'm the only, sorry to be the odd man out, but I am involved in Sports Link. Obviously, I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes production, replay, graphics, cam, audio, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fun time. Excited to have you guys here. Let's start with our baseball team. Harris, you mentioned they're doing well. Had a tough weekend series against Winthrop. Why don't you give us a summary of what happened?
Yeah, well, High Point took 2 out of 3. They extended their season-high win streak to 5 in a row on Saturday before a really tough loss on Sunday in a back-and-forth contest with Winthrop. Really a game that seemed lost for High Point. They were able to come back and score 5 runs in the 8th inning, all with 2 outs to tie the game at 9, unfortunately letting one score in the 9th to get away. But, I look at this High Point team, the big thing in talking to Joey Hammond so much this season is just the energy that this team has. We haven't seen this in past years. The energy is very high, whether it's, scoring a bunch of runs, getting big hits, pump it up in the dugout. Energy's high, and Joey Hammond sets the standard. It's, there's no rules with Joey Hammond. It's the expectation, and his big expectation is that if you match his intensity in practice and you match the intensity in the game with that energy, good things can happen. And, we've seen it over the last stretch. Even though they lost, they scored 9 runs, and for the first time this season as a team, hitting over 300 in a game on Sunday in a loss is special. So 5 in a row on Saturday, unfortunately losing on Sunday. But this team's off to a good start, and I'll give it to Ben over here before we get into some individuals.
Yeah, I got to agree with Harry. I think the team's starting to make a little turn. I think, like he said, Joey Hammond, I think, is kind of finally making that footprint that he wanted to make when he came in here. You got to give a lot of credit. I think the big thing was the series did not start off well against Winthrop. You got to remember, Friday opening game, 4 runs from Winthrop without an out. And, I was sitting there watching him like, okay, Carter Shepard on the bump, gave up a couple of home runs, and it's like, you got to take him out. He doesn't have it. But he actually kind of rebounded. He went 7 innings strong. That's something you don't see a lot, especially at the college level, kind of the trust. So I think you're kind of seeing a little resiliency from this High Point team. And as they get deeper and deeper in the Big South play, obviously they got off to a rough start, but they had a little bit of a tough non-conference schedule. They had to play NC State, who came in top 10 in the country. They went down to Kentucky, and they played they were going to play West Virginia. They ran into some trouble against Pitt, and you're playing these big programs. It's unrealistic to say they're going to be able to compete against teams with those resources and those facilities and those recruiting tactics. So I think as they get into Big South play, you kind of seeing that they could be a player this year. I think that's something that you have to look forward to.
Sneaky team. And Harris, you mentioned some individual performances, some standouts from this past weekend. One of them got Big South Freshman of the Week. What did you see from that?
Yeah, Everett Vaughn, 3 saves this week, and he's a true freshman. He already leads the Panthers in appearances as a reliever, and that's something to say, just the confidence that he's had. Tuesday against UNCG, coming in to a ball game in the 9th inning, giving up 3 runs, but still having that ability to keep his cool and not fully collapse in the 9th inning, getting the save. Had to come in a tough situation, 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs on Friday. All he needed was 1 out. He got that out. Saturday pitching a clean 9th inning and 3 saves for him. But also you look at the arms, Carter Shepard, and on Friday's broadcast, I couldn't keep giving him enough credit. He was phenomenal, able to rebound after giving up those 4 runs with nobody out. That's amazing. He's really showing ace-like stuff. And then Sam Garcia on the mound as well, who's transitioned into the Sunday starter now, who's got an ERA of below 2 at 1.78. He's been incredible. He's the go-to guy for Joey Hammond when the game's decided. And you look at hitting-wise, Peyton Carr, last year as a true freshman, he was great too. Now at the third base DH role, he's hitting over 300 for the Panthers, and he's got a big hitting streak as well. Whenever you need a clutch hit out of that guy, he comes through, and I know there's other big bats as well.
Yeah, I think also a big part of this, they've done all this kind of without Javon Fields out for, I believe, the last week or so with an injury. I think it's kind of showing, obviously, that that resiliency aspect, I got to give some more credit to Charlie Klingler. I mean, he had a great weekend. He had the game-winning hit on Friday, or the game-winning RBI, and then he went yard. He's, he has kind of like an awkward form, but I mean, hey, if it gets it done, it gets it done. And you can kind of tell he's becoming like a player favorite amongst that clubhouse and that locker room. So I think you kind of see a lot of guys. I mean, you got to give it up. Obviously, Blake Sutton and Peyton Carr, the two studs. I mean, they're Peyton Carr hitting over 300 right now. You kind of want to see the bats get going a little bit more, but I think as you get in the Big South play and, they're getting – again, we're getting to the midway point in the year. I think they're still getting comfortable, and I think we'll see those bats get improved too. They're
a really fun team to watch, and a lot of the videos, of course, on Twitter about the pump it up, getting the team hyped up. I mean, that's really cool. You don't see that too often from teams. I want to get your thoughts, like each of you. Like, what do you think about that, the whole pump it up? Like, seeing a team do that. Like how does that make you feel as avid followers of this baseball team here at High Point?
It's great. Not only does it gain attraction on social media, but it just prompts people to want to come to games. It's like during the basketball season. We saw that energy in the arena, that family weekend win in overtime against Asheville, so all the students were like, okay, we want this to happen again. We want to be a part of it. Now it's with baseball, they had that series sweep against College of Charleston. That was when the first pump it up really started to happen, and now everyone wants to come. Willard Stadium's averaging just under 400 people a game in their home games this season, and I think one of the reasons for that is the energy, and that's credit to the coaching staff. Again, Joey Hammond's expectation is to bring energy every day, and that's what happens when you get opportunities, not only as a team, but personally as well. You mentioned, Ben, Charlie Klingler and another guy, Mickey Etchezarreta, getting some starts now this weekend. Etchezarreta, a true freshman, wasn't even making road trips at the beginning of the season. Now has earned his time, has paid rent, as Joey Hammond likes to say, and he's gotten some starts. In Klingler the same way. The guys love him. He's earned that opportunity, and it's all because everybody is collectively bringing some energy into this ball club.
Yeah, I mean, the pump it up stuff was awesome. When I saw that, it's like that is what you want to see from baseball, especially, baseball known as kind of a slower sport, and you got to kind of stay into it. That's something you love to see, especially it can get the crowd pumped up. It gets you kind of motivated, and I think it brings a little extra edge too. And I think it gives the team just a better personality. I mean, especially, obviously you're known for the individual guys and, kind of seeing how everybody differs, but especially with a team sport like baseball is, you kind of want to see, them rally together. And I think that's a good sign of where they're at right now, where they're willing to have fun and they're still able to have focus. And I think, hey, if this pump it up becomes the new mantra of the club, of the D1 baseball team, then I'm all for it.
Exactly. I mean, top two moments from the season, the pump it up song and the sandwich rankings list from our very own Harris Eisenberg. That's what I love to see in those baseball broadcasts. So a lot of creativity has been brought in.
Yeah, you know what? The sandwich rankings are great, and we just try to keep the broadcast fun. But some other games and other broadcasts that are really fun. Let's go to the other spring sport, lacrosse. Obviously, the men's team and the women's team. Women's team had a couple of tough losses, but now going into conference play in the Big South. The guys in the SoCon. Wendell, I know you're on commentary for a lot of those. Just what are you seeing out of both squads?
Starting with the women's team, Harris, I mean, last Wednesday, a unique game against UNC. They were actually up 5-2 at the end of the first quarter, and then the tornado warning hit here in High Point, North Carolina, so everyone had to evacuate. Players went to the locker rooms. As a broadcaster, I was down on the first floor with all the athletic workers, and it kind of deflated High Point a little bit because when they came back out, UNC was ready for them, and UNC, they're the number one team in the nation heading in that game. So that was a tough competitive matchup for High Point, but they played well in the first quarter, gave it all they had, nearly were able to pull off the upset. UNC was just a little too much for them. I think High Point was just getting a little timid at times. They were down. They were allowing UNC to get on that run. Weren't able to bounce back, but Abby Horn, still another stellar performance for her. Mina Loescher notched a milestone on Saturday in the loss against Liberty with career points, so she's certainly been someone that's been great for the team. I think High Point, now that they're officially in Big South play, even though they lost to Liberty in their first conference game by 1, they've got a home game coming up against Campbell. Definitely going to serve as a lot of momentum for them. I'm looking forward to see what High Point can do because last year they were the defending Big South champs, so I think they're going to have great success. And for the men's team, I mean, Saturday, a great redemption win against Detroit Mercy after losing a tough battle against UNC. So both our lacrosse teams got games against UNC, but I think the Detroit Mercy win definitely was a statement victory for the Panthers. It was their final non-conference day. It was also Military Appreciation Day, so a lot of the parents of the High Point lacrosse athletes that are in the military got recognized. It was just a great day for some lacrosse, and I think coming up they got a big SoCon matchup against Jacksonville, so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I think that Detroit Mercy game was kind of a reminder to the rest of the SoCon, like, hey, you know, we struggled a little bit against, you know, the Dukes, the UNCs, the Marylands this year, but we still run that conference and we're still the defending champs. I mean, obviously an 18-8 victory, and especially heading into conference play is really starts to pick up. I mean, that's what you really want to see. And I think obviously with Asher Nolting and Brain Maia, the two-headed horse of this team. I mean,
the dynamic duo.
Yeah, the dynamic duo, and they're going to be. I mean, it's going to be tough to stop one of them, let alone both of them, come conference time.
And like you said, the non-conference schedule is expected to be hard because of where this program has been over the last few years. You look at they beat ranked Duke in 2019. They've played Duke consistently, UNC consistently, Virginia, Maryland over the last 3 years. And, one of the big topics with those games is that you expect High Point to dominate the SoCon. Yeah. But when it comes to tournament time, when they played Chapel Hill and then when they played Duke and Virginia, they always seem to get really close, but they just can't finish it. A lot of the times it's too little too late. So, obviously the men's team has been great. What do you think, Wendell and Ben, kind of is just going to needs to happen to take them over the top to beat those ranked teams?
I think getting off to those quick starts, Harris. I mean, being able to play those big opponents and show that you're ready right from the beginning, because teams like UNC, Duke, Maryland, they love coming out firing right out the gate, scoring left and right. So you got to be able to control the tempo, show them that, hey, it's your game. It's not theirs. It's yours. High Point's just got to take command because, like you said, Harris, every year we see both the men's and women's lacrosse team. They dominate conference play. Never a problem. SoCon, not a problem for the men's. Big South, not a problem for the women's. But it's when they get in the NCAA tournament where they're just not able to get over the hump. And I know Coach Torpy, when I talked to him in the beginning of the season before their first game at home against Robert Morris, he was saying that or against Colgate, he was really just emphasizing the fact that he was a little disappointed that his program is still not getting necessarily the national recognition that he feels like it deserves. He feels like they're getting that recognition, but not enough of it. He feels like they deserve more and more. And I asked him how they get over that hump. He just said, get off to those hot starts, show them that we're really competing with the best. He's mentioned a lot of competitive games they've had against Duke and UNC over the years, but I think they got to start consistently beating those teams to be able to get that edge and that national recognition overall.
Yeah, they definitely need that kind of confidence. Obviously, it would have been nice, have a win over a top 10 team like Duke or UNC. I think a big thing is it's tough to play a complete game against these top-ranked teams. I mean, we saw it against Duke. They kind of got off to that fast start. They jumped out to a 3-0 lead, and then they kind of back and forth until halftime, and then that third quarter hit, and then it kind of just it really kind of hit them where Duke kind of got in a rhythm and kind of went after them. So that midway kind of through the second half is also where it kind of impacted them against UNC. That's kind of where they really got to, keep it moving and keep it going. They really need to add a couple more at that point of the game. And then I think that's kind of where you'll see those wins start to pile up. Again, tourney time is a whole different thing, and I think that as long as they cruise through conference play like, they're expected and supposed to, I think, they're going to be chomping at the bit to get another bid at one of these top 10 teams.
And how about just you compare the rosters of the men's and women's lacrosse teams, the women's team kind of has a similar core, but it's a little different for the guys now. A lot of veteran players, Tyler Stinson, Sean Coughlin, Devin Buckshot, those guys are out. New guys are in. And you mentioned that Duke game earlier in the month, and a guy who got off to a really great start in that game was Jack Sawyer, dominating on the offensive end with 4 goals in the game, and a young player. Wendell, you are obviously on the call for a lot of those games. What have you liked out of his play and some of the other new players that they have?
I'm really liking that Jack Sawyer just coming in there like he's been there, done that. This is not his first year with the lacrosse program. He's really showing that he can be a big piece of the future of this High Point men's lacrosse team. They have lost a lot of players. Asher Nolting's in his last year. It's crazy to think that his time at High Point's going to come to an end because ever since I've been here, I've heard Asher Nolting this, Asher Nolting that, and I see why, because Asher Nolting is really good. Probably the top athlete we have here on the campus of High Point University. He's just that good of a player. But I think seeing that future core, especially on Saturday, I went against Detroit Mercy. The good thing about blowouts in lacrosse, you're able to get your bench in a lot more minutes and get some more playing time. So a lot of the freshmen were playing. Isaiah Moran-Weeks scored a goal. He's a freshman from Canada. So we're seeing a lot of players in that young core that are starting to get more opportunities, and I think that's going to be important for this season. Obviously, if you're High Point, you want to compete for the national championship, but you also got to understand that guys like Asher Nolting are not going to be on your side forever. So you need to start preparing for that next era of High Point lacrosse. And I feel like the men's program, they're doing well with that. And the women's need to honestly keep doing the same thing too, because Abby Horms, she's in her last year as well, and she's been the leader of the High Point women's lacrosse team for a while. But they do have some solid young players. Spree Shaw is definitely a freshman that stood out to me on that side. But I'm excited. I'm optimistic about the future of High Point lacrosse for both the men's and the women's. I think right now, though, national championship, we need it, baby. We need it.
I mean, hey, a national championship would definitely be nice. I think, out of all the programs here, the team that is closest is lacrosse.
Yes.
In each men's and women's. I mean, they become the face of the athletic department and the programs here just because, they've grown so rapidly. I mean, the men's lax team is not even, this is like their 10th year playing just lacrosse in general, and, they've been ranked so many times, being able to win those. They won their conference tournament in just their 3rd season. Obviously, they grabbed their 2nd one last year, but it just goes to show that, they can really they're just the face of the program and the face of the athletic department here.
Everyone loves them, and every time a goal is scored, they have their own theme music that's played after that. I'd like to know for you guys, if you guys were lacrosse players, what would be your song that would be played every time you scored a goal?
I don't know, but first I got to say I love the Jack Sawyer celebration.
Yeah,
The video where he's going the
yeah,
right there with a motorcycle, I think it is. I don't know. I mean, you're going to have to give me some time to think about that, but if I could think of something off the top of my head, good gosh. Ben, you got anything?
Nothing off the top of my head. Again, if you gave me time, I could spend hours, trying to find, the perfect song and the perfect playlist for my, kind of go-to lacrosse song. I could spend hours on that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, it takes time and dedication. Based on the songs that some of the players have, I can tell they actually took a lot of time to think about it. So, because it represents who we are as an athlete. So.
Yeah.
And now switching to another program that's gotten a little more national recognition and some campus recognition, track and field.
Track and field.
Sydney Horn, obviously with the pole vault, is nationally recognized for that. And then on the men's side, you got Deron Dudley and Chris Van Niekerk. Van Niekerk and Sydney Horn taking home Big South Athletes of the Week. Wendell, I know you called that track meet at Vert Stadium just a couple of weeks ago. What have you seen with them?
I've just seen a lot of unity within the track and field program. Sydney Horn, unfortunately, was not able to compete at that last meet. She took the weekend off. But we got to see a lot of the younger athletes there for the High Point track and field team. And I think what I always get whenever I do a track and field meet here is just seeing all these schools from all around the country coming here to High Point and being together. There's a lot of events that go back and forth, very quick, but very fun time. I've really enjoyed watching track and field. I think there's a lot of great distance runners on the track and field teams. They had some great success in the 400-meter event specifically. So I'm definitely really intrigued to see what they're going to bring at their next meet. They already have another meet here at High Point University this weekend, the Vert class meeting. That's pretty much been a staple of the High Point track and field program for quite some time. And then they have the Meet of Champions in a couple weeks where they're going to host all the Big South schools. And apparently they're going to have a live DJ. They're going to have like a bouncy house there. So it's going to be a pretty festive atmosphere.
Hopefully we can bring the energy there.
Like
the Cobain
exactly.
This past season.
Yeah, I kind of like how, High Point, lacrosse in general, obviously the new purple track helps, I guess. But, I mean, it kind of feels like it's getting more, like, national recognition, like you said, across, the track and field. I mean, what you were telling me the other day, there was only a couple, like, track and field broadcasts, across the entire nation, and High Point was one of them. So I think, and obviously you saw just the amount of schools around here, and, obviously, I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, but the Vert class coming up, I mean, you were going to see even more there and bigger name schools. So I think it's good to see that we're getting kind of, the track and field is getting this kind of recognition nationally.
It's getting a lot of exposure in like SportsLink. We're producing 6-hour track and field broadcasts.
That's crazy.
Like that's a long stream, but that's great exposure for these track and field athletes to put their highlights on their reel. I mean,
yeah, and honestly, it's like a country metropolis of schools coming to Vert Stadium. Not even the NCAA. You had some NAI schools there, schools from all over the nation, D2s, D3s, as I mentioned, NAIs. I mean, that's crazy. And, I think part of that is also because of the facility that we have at High Point University. Great that the track is purple, obviously, but, just the facility itself, I don't think there's anywhere else in the country that has a, track and field kind of specific facility like Vert Stadium is.
It's very fantastic, and I'm just really glad our track and field teams are getting that recognition because I feel like they kind of were left in the dust, especially last spring, just because we had all the sports tied in. You had soccer and volleyball getting in the spring. But I want to know for you guys, because you guys are both seniors, from your time as freshmen, if you could pick one High Point athletic team that you really feel like you've just seen grow, like the program itself grow from your freshman to senior year, which team would you choose? Let's start with you, Harris.
I think an obvious answer for me personally, just because, from working all these games, has to be the women's basketball team. This was a team in 2019 when I first got here that, was under a different regime, and believe it or not, Skylar Curran was coming off the bench, and Jensen Edwards didn't play because she was redshirted. It was very different. It was a little, now thinking back, it's a little bizarre to know what those players were doing at that time. But I got to tell you, Chelsea Banbury is an unbelievable coach. And, obviously the arena helps the program grow, but let me tell you something. When you lose your best player in the projected Big South Player of the Year. You got to find a way to push some buttons. And Chelsea Banbury did that. They had that 8-game winning streak this season, finishing Big South play strong. And in my opinion, got screwed in the Big South tournament against Gardner-Webb in the quarterfinal. But that's a conversation for another day. I think the program's doing great. Obviously, just imagine what Jaden Reitzel could have been if Skylar Curran was in the fold this season. Obviously, Reitzel led the team in scoring, but again, Jensen Edwards did so much this season. You look at not only the scoring, but the rebounding, the passing, and the way that Chelsea Banbury was able to push buttons to make Jordan Edwards better, to make Claire Wyatt better, to put freshman Nakia Terrell and Jaden Reitzel in a different spot in a bench role and make them better. She's just so good at what she does. So, I personally think here at HPU, we're lucky to have her as our head coach because she is just so good at her job.
I think just before I get to my team, I think just copying off that, there's definitely a sense of culture being built around the women's basketball team. I mean, when Skylar Curran went down, it would have been very easy for this team to, kind of flounder the rest of the year. And I know they kind of struggled and they kind of had to learn how to play without Skylar a little bit. But you saw, to make the run they did and go into the tournament so strong, obviously rough ending in the tournament, but I mean, just to do that, that's a sign of a program that's building. So, I mean, Jane Reitzel coming in and, kind of fitting in, just like fitting so neatly into place. It's a testament to Chelsea Banbury and her work here. To answer your question, though, in terms of the team that I think has grown a lot, I already mentioned them earlier. The men's lax team from when I got here, obviously they've been the face of the franchise, face of the campus, like I said, but they weren't exactly how they were, now a couple years ago when I got here as a freshman. I mean, they were kind of, a 500 team in terms of their overall success. And then obviously you get the astronaut thing coming in is obviously a huge piece of it. But to grow into, the powerhouse, obviously they dominated last year in the SoCon and ran through it to another conference title. And now they're going to be favored again here. I think you're kind of sensing, John Torpy is doing a fantastic job over there and really kind of building, and like I said, with the women's lax team, has this culture built where, people are still coming back. And then, they're getting these national recognition, coming in preseason rankings. Like, that's a big deal that not a lot of other programs have, where they can come in and say, hey, we're nationally ranked coming into the year. So I think that's a testament to why the men's lax team has grown so much.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to do with the coaching, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Joey Hammond is another thing, like with baseball. You could say their program's grown. And again, Joey Hammond has players that aren't his, so the way he's being able to do things now is great. That program's going to grow in the future. But right now, Ben, I know you got to talk to Coach Torpy just the other day. Just what'd you like about that interaction? Because every time I get to talk to Joey Hammond or a coach, these coaches on this campus are so well-spoken. Just, I know, Wendell, you've talked to him as well. Just what do you like about talking to Coach Torpy?
Like you said, he's so well-spoken, but the one thing he hammered in, he emphasized just as much on the field as off the field. I mean, he is in his favorite. When I asked him what he's most proud of about this program and what he's built, he says just the guys, the past, the present, and the future. He loves how the guys have come back and interact with the current players. I think that he has just such a knack for not just this program but the sport of lacrosse as well. I mean, he did a great job of articulating why he thinks lacrosse is such a growing sport. He loves the speed. He thinks that that's appealing to kids so much, and I think that just. He is a guy that if I were a lacrosse player, and especially a top-ranked recruit, he's a guy I want to play for. He sounds like a guy that when I talk to him, he would go to bat for me any day of the week. And I think that's what most impressed me about John Torpy.
Yeah, the guy himself, I mean, he's just real. He'll tell you straight up how it is, and he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's so good about remembering literally everything that's happened in this program since the time he was here. He started this program. I think that's what makes it even more special, the fact that he founded High Point Men's Lacrosse, and he's been there since the beginning. And he really obviously knows astronauting is the core of his team, but he knows and recognizes a lot of the freshmen. I was asking him, who are those young players that really stood out to you in training camp and preseason? He named pretty much every single freshman on the roster. He's proud of every single player.
And there's a lot of them, too.
There's a lot of them, too. If you look at a lacrosse roster,
You're scrolling.
You're scrolling for at least a good 10 minutes or so. It's a lot. It takes a long time to do lacrosse news, but it's worth it at the end of the day. But John Torpy himself, he's just a real guy. He's someone that loves his teammates, loves his players, and the rest of his coaching staff too. He's got a great assistant coaches, and you mentioned Ben. You said you would play for him if you were a player. I'd play for him too. That's someone bring it on. Let Coach Torpy coach me lacrosse, even though I've never even held a lacrosse
Sign
stick
me up,
before in
coach.
my life.
Sign me up.
I've never played. Have you guys ever played lacrosse or no?
Never.
I remember my parents bought me a lacrosse stick because I was when I was trying out all the sports, they bought me a lacrosse stick, and I remember playing around with it in the front yard. But I never really got well coordinated with it, and was never really my thing, I guess you could say.
I play hockey, so I play goalie when I play hockey, and I figured that would translate to lacrosse, but that ball hurts. That's a little painful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a fan of that, But again, coaching is always a big thing at High Point University. Another team that loves their coach is golf. Head coach Brady Greger, leading their team, obviously, playing a tournament in South Carolina right now. And one of the big names, Adam Hooker, individually is tied for 4th, while the team overall is 7th out of 9th right now. The individuals are coming in, and again, this is a golf team that needs to replace Brandon Einstein, who, if you guys know, was playing late in the year last year, playing in some national tournaments, unfortunately falling out of the rankings. He has moved on. Adam Hooker shooting a 2 under 70, had 6 birdies on the day, so that's a round that, really could have been better if he would have executed. Christian Castillo shot a 2 over 75, which he had 4 birdies as well. So again, there's some building to do here for the men's golf team as well. I know a team that doesn't get a lot of national recognition because, we're not broadcasting golf every weekend. There's no golf course on this campus. I would love that.
I'm sure.
We need a golf course and a bowling alley. Give me a bowling alley.
I'm sure Nito has some plans in the vault. One day as he expands, he might throw in a golf course here and there.
I was thinking we need a go-kart track on this.
At least get a simulator in the Panther Commons that they're building.
Yeah. You got Panther Commons. I'm expecting big things. Still don't know what the retail stores are going to be, but
Yeah, but this golf team needs someone to replace Brandon Einstein and Adam Hooker, a native of Florida. 6 birdies is pretty impressive, even though they only finished at -2. So, I don't know how you guys, your knowledge on the golf team, but, this is a tight-knit group. Brady Greger's a great coach. He's very popular with his famous saying, the ski, kind of thing that he does to the players. But, golf's such a great sport, in my opinion, because it's very individualized and it's very relaxed. I think when you're out on the course, you're just kind of, in your own zone and you're just kind of doing your thing. And it's nature, love being out in the elements. So, the golf team has got to try and get to that next level to shoot for some more recognition.
I think that's the best thing, though, about this golf team is that it's an individual performance. Like, yes, it's still a team, but a lot of it is relied based on your individual performance. So I would love to see them get more recognition. I feel like they deserve it. I would love for us to be able to stream some golf when we have SportsLink. If they ever do a golf course.
I think it's just tough. Just the fact, obviously, it's off campus.
Yeah.
It's setting that up. And it's like it's constantly moving. That broadcast. So
right.
It's tough. It definitely deserves more recognition. I think because you see the popularity of golf. On the professional level. I mean, Tiger obviously. Big names like Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, all this. So it'd be great, if we could get that exposure to these golfers on HPU, because I'm sure there are a bunch of golfers here who, are very talented at, and the Big South level and, the college lacrosse level.
And it's very different because, again, it's not on campus, so nobody goes to golf events, especially because a lot of them aren't local, like the teams in South Carolina right now. And again, golf is very popular now. Again, that's part due to COVID, in 2020, everyone started getting into golf, which means once you start playing, you start watching a little more. And college golf is a big thing. You look at some schools, Stanford, Arkansas is a pretty good golf school as well. So, High Point would love to get it. By the way, the golf bags they have are incredible. When I walk in Joey Hammond's office every day, that's the first thing that I see is this golf bag, the High Point University golf bag. It's incredible. So
better than the scooters for the women's basketball team.
The scooters. I need one of those.
I feel like you see one. Whenever you see one, you let me know.
Yeah.
Whenever you see one.
I see non-players on them. I see managers on them. I see interns on them. Heck, I probably get to see Gigi Smith while we're scooting to campus one of these days. I need a scooter, but. A lot of little gadgets and gizmos on this High Point campus for these athletes to enjoy.
Yeah, so athletics really heating up. Got some fun events coming up this week. Of course, our baseball team will be playing at Truist Point, home of the High Point Rockers tomorrow, so that should be a lot of fun.
That's going to be
Women's
exciting.
lacrosse, Wednesday, home game, track and field meet this weekend, so everything's going to be a lot of fun here. Campus High Point University, always buzzing in the world of HPU athletics. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of HPU Sports Talk. Ben Harris, just want to say thank you guys for joining on today. You guys did a really great job. So for Ben Membrino and Harris Eisenberg, I'm Wendell Epps saying so long. We'll catch you next time here on HPU Sports Talk.